Welcome, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We'll go ahead and get started here. We're really excited to mix it up today. A big part of Chris and I's passion is education and giving investors, potential investors, people the education and information to, really plan and maximize for their retirement, for investing, and how they evaluate deals. So we have actually brought on Kaaren Hall, who is the founder of uDirect IRA Services. So we're going to talk, I'm not going to talk, Karen's going to present all about self-directed IRAs, how they can be, who they're for, what they are, changes that are coming in 2024, and what a self-directed IRA could mean for you. But before we get there, and kind of for people who might be joining us at 7E for the first time, I am going to cover a little bit about who we are, our backstory, our offerings, before handing it over to Kaaren. So with that, again, if you have any questions along the way, we will answer them at the end. But if you could drop them into the Q&A box, that would be amazing. Okay. So my name is Lauren Wells. I'm one of the co-founders here at 7E Investments. You'll notice Chris is not with us today. Sometimes three's a crowd on Zoom, so we just figured we'd keep it two. And what we do is we specialize in fixing and flipping residential mortgage notes that are secured by single-family homes throughout the U.S. We are buying these at a discount, working with the borrower to increase the value of the loan, and then selling it back on the secondary market. How we got started in this, Chris and I both came from corporate W-2 jobs and through very different avenues. And if you are interested in further hearing about our backstories, we do have a webinar on our website that you can watch that talks in depth about kind of how we came to create 7E. But at a high level, I was a college athlete turned high school water polo coach who realized that there were a lot of parents showing up to the games, the practices, all the things. And I realized they either invested in real estate or own their own business, which led me to get my first sales job in software sales and use my commissions to fund my real estate investments. Learned about a self-directed IRA, opened that, and that was a great vehicle as well to help invest. But what I realized kind of as someone who at the time was not accredited, so a lot of funds were really off limits, or, I wasn't eligible to invest in these funds, was, okay, how do we make something accessible and available to everyone? And that's kind of where 7E came from. I had met Chris after, managing my own portfolio of notes for a while, and we partnered together on our offering, which is a Regulation A offering. And really what that means is it is available and accessible to both accredited and non-accredited investors. So anyone can invest. You don't have to have a certain net worth or make a certain amount of income. And it's accessible in that it is not a 50K buy-in. I remember starting as a new investor thinking, okay, 50,000 is a lot, 25,000 is a lot to invest in my first investment. So, making it something where people can get started. Again, this is a great vehicle. We have a lot of people who invest with low dollar self-directed IRAs that they might have just opened. So you can see here, these are the terms of our offering. It is a 4-year term, again, open to accredited and non-accredited investors, minimum of 5,000. And we're aiming to provide a preferred dividend of 8% annually, and we pay that monthly. Some of the highlights is it's open to qualified and non-qualified accounts. Dividends are paid monthly. We look at this as really an income play. People who are part of our 7E investor community are looking typically to subsidize retirement, subsidize their current lifestyle, whether that's daycare, college, car payment, cell phone, mortgage. So the monthly payments are something that they kind of can build into their ongoing budget. We don't take on any additional leverage, so our investors are first in line. From a risk profile, all of our assets have up to 4 times collateral coverage, meaning the LTV on our assets is around 30%, actually a little bit less than that. So It's also not a blind pool. You know, this is something that we are doing. We've been running. We have about just under 100 assets in our portfolio at this time. We don't take any fees. So again, we're not charging you a management, acquisition, disposition fee. Really, Chris and I built this offering based off of, as investors, what are some of the things that drove us nuts? You know, hey, we're going to offer you 10% and then we're going to fee you to death. You know, so your return is like 4 or 5, maybe not that low, but you get the point. And then from a tax perspective, this is a highlight for a lot of people who have invested before. It's a 1099 dividend form, no K1s. I actually spoke with someone today who said he thinks there should be a penalty against people who are late delivering their K1s, and he doesn't want to invest with anyone who does K1s anymore. So it's something that is top of mind if you've ever invested and have had to wait on those K1s and file an extension for your taxes. So pretty good timing here. And with that, I will hand it over to Kaaren.
Thanks so much, Lauren. I just want to say that Lauren spoke at my OCREIA meeting recently. So that, your presentation was just so awesome and everyone loved it. So if anybody wants a copy of that presentation, I'm just going to throw in the chat how to get a hold of me. It's K Hall at uDirect IRA.com. Anyway, I can't type right now, so I'll put it in later. But yes, but you can reach out to Lauren, you can reach out to me. I'll give you a copy and the password so you can hear that awesome presentation. But with that, I do have something to share here with you. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and chat about self-directed IRAs. And I really love what Lauren is doing. Of course, we don't endorse any particular investment. It's self-directed. You're choosing the investment. You're choosing the asset. But what I like about Lauren's offering is that there's no debt. And as you'll learn during my presentation, that means that your IRA, if invested in an asset like the one that E7 presents, you're not going to have the tax, the UBIT or UDFI tax that sometimes pops into some self-directed IRA investments. So just want to throw that out there. So the presentation is it's talking to people raising capital, but this is just as valid and just as important to you if you're simply listening because you want to be an investor and you want to use your own IRA. So either this is for the IRA holder or this is for the asset sponsor. So there's a $40 trillion pool of assets that you can tap into. And that's what uDirect represents is a way to jump into those assets as an asset sponsor, raising capital, and help your investors to build their retirement. And so let's get into that right now. A little bit about me, assuming that this will in fact advance. There you go. So I've done a lot of things and worn a lot of hats. And I've been, well, first, school, college, and then after some time, I became a property manager. I got a real estate license in my 20s and jumped in later on into mortgage loan servicing for a long time. So we called it cleaning up after the elephant. I think you'll relate, Lauren, what that's like. And then also origination for several more years. So I was in the mortgage industry for a long, long time. Also a real estate investor personally. And I've been in this industry, I got to fix this slide because I've been in the industry 17 years. So I've had licenses, real estate licenses first in Texas, Washington, then in Texas, then in California. I have also held a life and health license here in California where I live. But now in the self-directed IRA space, I've got the SDIP designation, self-directed IRA industry professional, which as a CEO, you'd hope, and also CISP, which is from the American Bankers Association, a certified IRA services professional. It's very technical about how IRAs are processed and so forth. But primarily, what I really am proud of is being a member of REITA. That's the Retirement Industry Trust Association. I joined that in 2011. I sit on the board of directors. And what's so great about that is that I really have my ear to the ground on what's happening in Washington that affects our industry. It's just such a fabulous organization to belong to. I'm super proud of it. But before I did all of this, I was a radio announcer. There you go. That's me. Probably your age, Lauren. And there you go. And so I was in radio in Flagstaff, Phoenix. Then I went to Seattle and Hollywood, actually, California, Hollywood, and then Dallas. And then after a bunch of years doing that, I retired from that because I needed to make some real money. Like, why do we all get into real estate? It's because I did my, my passion, what I really loved. And then I found something else that I really, really loved that actually, brought in some zero. So, but it was really fun. I'll do my radio voice. I did like light rock. Let's talk K-Light 98.7 FM. Right?
I love hearing how, like, in this industry, whenever ask like what your backstory is, it's always so fun to hear. I think people just assume, oh, you've always been doing this, but it's cool to hear where people started out and kind of their journey that brought them to real estate or, the real estate industry and investing. So
it's not everyone starts here, right?
Yeah, very few people start here.
Well, so then now, as founder and CEO of uDirect IRA Services, what I just love about what we're doing here is we're helping people build their retirement. There is just this gigantic deficit between what Americans have and what we need to retire. And I mentioned before this gigantic pool of retirement funds, a lot of money in IRAs, because as people leave their job, they'll take their 401k, 403b, 457, and move it over into an IRA. That's usually the first path. So IRAs are pretty big there, but it's this giant plan of retirement money. And as an asset sponsor, someone raising capital, if that's you, you're solving the problem for all these people who don't have enough in their retirement. Lauren was talking about mailbox money. Well, guess what? Maybe you don't need the mailbox money right now. Maybe you use your retirement account, let that build on the side, and just let that, store that up for your future self. We got to take care of ourselves now. At the same time, we have to take care of our future selves when we're not working. So this is just an awesome opportunity to do that. So there we go. Now, if anybody on the presentation today has not heard about a self-directed IRA, I'll tell you, you're not alone for sure, because even attorneys and CPAs still don't even know about this. But guess what? Gerald Ford signed these laws into effect, the ERISA laws, the Employment Retirement Income Security Act, 1975, like almost 50 years of self-directed IRAs. And a lot of people haven't heard about it because we don't make as much money off of your assets as the big brokerage assets, the Charles Schwab's, whatever, TD Ameritrade. We're not putting an ad on the Super Bowl because instead of spending the money on Super Bowl ads, you're getting that money in your account. We're not taking it out in fees. So self-directed IRAs are really great for that reason too, because you keep more of what you actually earned. So there's a typical IRA, kind of touching on that a little bit, and then there's the self-directed IRA. So they're two things, but they're also one thing. So an IRA is an IRA. It's a bucket that holds assets. And those assets are tax-free or tax-deferred. That's what an IRA is. Same thing with the solo 401k, all these different plans. The difference is what asset is in that bucket. The rules are the same, money in, money out. Those rules are the same, but a self-directed IRA lets you put different assets into your retirement account that you can't use. Well, if you're with if you've got a financial advisor, you're in stock market based assets. So single family homes, of course, notes, and I'll tell you the number one asset in the self-directed IRA industry is private equity, or what do you call it? There's so many different words for it. Private placement, Reg A, Reg B, Reg C, Reg D offerings, straight up notes where your IRA is the borrower. Your IRA can invest in performing and non-performing debt, raw land, precious metals. And I'll tell you what, right now, the price of precious metals is going up. And so there's that. You can use your self-directed IRA for that. Even cryptocurrency, Wild West cryptocurrency, a lot of risk in that one. So your IRA can just invest in so many more assets. It really opens the door to what you can do. So in 1975, when the IRS came up with this brilliant idea, let's help people save for their own retirement because, hey, Social Security might not last forever. And we all need to be responsible for ourselves. This is a great way to do it. But they came up with these rules, so genius in their simplicity. The rules say two things you can't do with the self-directed IRA. And one is to invest in life insurance contracts. And the other one is to invest in collectibles. So no art collection, no collectible cars, no collectible coins. They call it numismatics, right? But you can invest in precious metals. It has to have a really high degree of purity. So those are the two things you can't invest in. Also, your IRA is not an equity partner in an S corporation. And that's not because the IRS says so, but because S corps don't let non-human entities be equity holders. Okay, so those are the limits. But now the rules. So to give you a proper view of what a self-directed IRA is, it's really crucial that you take a minute, maybe if you're taking notes, you take some notes on this part so that you succeed. I think that self-directed IRAs, I call it a game of keep away, because we're going to keep away from prohibited transactions. That doesn't sound so bad, does it? It's prohibited. Like, oh, okay, well, what is that? Like a slap on the wrist? Not so bad. No, it's a little worse. I mean, it's not a crime, so we're there. But if your IRA does commit a prohibited transaction, that tax protected bubble bursts, and now that money can be taxable to you, possibly with penalties. So we want to do everything in our power to help you steer clear of prohibited transactions. Whether or not you commit one in your IRA is solely your responsibility, all right? This is one reason why we offer a 20-minute free consultation, so that before you invest, you could talk to us about your deal, tell us what you want to do, and we'll look and see if we can see a prohibited transaction for you. And if we do, we'll tell you, hey, this could be prohibited. So let's do that today. What's disallowed? Borrowing money personally from an IRA. You can take a 60-day loan once in 12 months from your IRA. You can take the money out, have it personally, but if it's not back in another retirement account in 60 days, it's taxable to you. Another thing is you don't sell property or any kind of asset you already own to your IRA, and that's because you're disallowed to your IRA, and I'll get into that in a second. Your IRA is not security for a loan, and the reason for that is you're not allowed to have personal benefit from your IRA. That's another prohibited transaction, which we'll dive into deeper. Also, you don't use your IRA to buy assets for personal use, whether present or future. And again, that would be receiving personal benefit from your IRA-owned assets. If you're a real estate investor, a little workaround there is that your IRA acquires a property, you intend it to be an unowned occupied property, you keep it for a long time, you decide that you want to rent, you want to buy it out of your IRA, you can do that. And if an IRS knocks on your door, you can say, well, here, I always intended it for it to be an asset and an investment, but I just purchased it from my IRA because now I want that property. But the intention was always to keep it as an investment. So there's my hand, the prohibited transactions, the stop sign. Don't do this. That's a simple way of saying it. But some of the prohibited transactions are that neither you nor any disqualified person can benefit from the IRA. Hey, disqualified people, what's that, right? It's your ascendants and descendants. So it's your parents and grandparents, you and your spouse, and your children and your grandchildren down the family tree. Disallowed, plus also a 50-50 business partner, and if any fiduciary to the plan, like your CPA, your lawyer, maybe your realtor, somebody who has got a fiduciary duty to the deal is also a disqualified, prohibited person. All right, so you don't buy, sell, or exchange assets between the plan, whatever it may be, again, Roth, traditional, whatever, solo pay. Those accounts don't buy assets from disallowed people. Similarly, your account doesn't sell assets to these people, or your IRA would not make a loan to your spouse to open a business. You would receive personal benefit. Also, a disallowed person would receive personal benefit, prohibited transaction, okay? Now, these disqualified people can't provide services to the plan. If you're a rule book kind of person, you want to know where that's written, it is in the Internal Revenue Code 4975, IRC 4975, all the prohibited transactions. But they can't provide services to the plan, like, for example, maybe you own a piece of property and your husband has a property management company. Your husband is disallowed. He cannot offer that service to your IRA-owned asset. If you're raising capital and you're a general partner, you're providing services, so your IRA won't be investing in your own deal. Some examples. Now, of course, we're always available. I'm just going through this quickly. We're always available to talk to you to really flesh this out. Plus, any question you have, throw it in the chat, because
we've got some coming in that I think you'll be able, like, I figured we'd hold till the end and answer, but yeah, we have a lot of questions about disallowed transactions.
Yeah, I'll answer all of them. So, retirement can be a reward for saving and investing, or it can be a punishment for not doing so. So we all want to be on the right side of retirement, I think. I think that everyone that took their time to tune into this event is somebody who really cares about their future, cares about their financial well-being. So just remember, and I'll tell you what, a great takeaway that you can do. You can do this today, even though it's, April 17th. You can still make a contribution to your IRA today and invest in yourself instead of the IRAs. Pay yourself instead of the IRAs. All right. I mentioned I came from the mortgage industry. And that's the residential mortgage industry. When I found out that a bank will loan money to an IRA account, I thought this has got to be wrong. This can't be right, but it's true. So the only kind of leverage an IRA can take on is non-recourse debt, not Fannie Freddie, not conforming conventional, not VA. It has to be a non-recourse kind of commercial loan made to the IRA. And so what this means is if the IRA were to default on that loan, the lender couldn't come against you personally, yay, or any other assets in your IRA account. That's great. Of course, you can't personally guarantee that loan because you're disallowed to the IRA. But yeah, so the only thing that the IRA, the lender could come against in the case of default is just the asset. Usually it's a house typically, so that's about it. Now, there aren't a lot of non-recourse lenders to choose from, but if you would like a list, super happy to provide that to you. You can email me info@udirectira.com. I'll shoot you that list of non-recourse lenders. It's not a list of people we endorse. It's more just for your convenience, okay? They're going to ask for more money. Like when we buy a house, sometimes we can put 5% down on a property, right? And acquire a house. But when you're using non-recourse debt, more leverage, more skin in the game for your IRA, so expect that. There we go. Now, as I alluded to earlier, there can be taxes on an IRA, not income taxes, not 1040 income taxes, but these special taxes, UBIT and UDFI. So if your IRA takes on leverage, the amount of profit your IRA earned because of leverage is taxable. Not the entire amount, just the percentage that your IRA earned because of leverage. Lauren mentioned that her offering doesn't have this because there's no leverage. UBIT and UDFI are twin taxes really because they're the same tax, but they're for different purposes. UBIT is when your IRA buys an active business. Now, a long time ago when people were flipping property like crazy, UBIT would also show up if you're investing and flipping a lot of properties because that's active income. Just so you just know that these taxes exist. And if they apply to you, call us, we'll let you know if they do. And when you need to report them, your IRA files a 990T. And we file a 1040 personally. Your IRA files a 990T when taxes are due. Hey, and if you want to go super deep on this, again, if you're like the Google book kind of person, look up the irs.gov. IRS has a really good website, a very clear, easy to understand explanations for things. And their publication 598 really dishes into UBIT and UDFI.
Yeah, and I think that's like really important to note because I think when you think of an IRA account or qualified, 401k, any of that, you think, oh, there's no way that this is tax exempt. And those are two things that people forget about. So if you're evaluating offerings, asking not only from like a risk point profile and where you fall in the capital stack, do you take on any additional leverage or debt is important, again, to know where you fall in the capital stack, but also if you are investing with a self-directed IRA, know that you could be subject to UBIT and UDFI and take that into consideration when calculating your return. So I get that all the time. I feel like people forget that you're not fully tax exempt when it comes to self-directed IRAs. So yeah.
All right. That's so true. So you talked about capital stack. So in some private equity deals, say, for example, they're building an apartment building, they have this capital stack and there is leverage. And so what's happening to a lot of our account holders is that leverage for the asset sponsor is come due or matured. And so they need to acquire new leverage at a higher rate. And so what we're seeing is a lot of capital costs. And that is one reason why you need to leave extra money, so idle cash in your account, is to cover expenses, because all expenses of IRA assets have to be paid for by the IRA. Now, account fees you can pay out of pocket, but if it's an expensive asset, your IRA has to pay for it. So what if you don't have enough money for that capital call? What if your IRA owns a house and it needs a new roof and there's not enough money or has property tax or something? What do you do? So if the IRA runs out of money, you can contribute. It depends upon your age, your account type, and your income. You could liquidate maybe other assets in the IRA, like maybe your IRA has some precious metal. So your IRA sells that, the money comes back in the IRA, you use that to make up the shortfall. You could transfer money or roll over money from another account into your IRA, or bring on a debt partner, and the IRA could also take out a loan. And if all these things don't work, then you probably need to sell your IRA owned asset if the expenses exceed what you've got. And that's how it works. And it's super important to know these things before you get in. You definitely want to really understand a self-directed IRA and how it works in every scenario. So when you buy real estate, in particular with an IRA, and this really does apply to any other asset, the process is basically the same. It's just a different underlying asset. But first, you open the account, right? Because your IRA can't invest if you don't have an IRA yet. A lot of people will find their asset and maybe there's a deadline, they want to get in right now, but they don't even have an account open. So understand that between opening an account, getting it funded, and investing can be 2 weeks. The reason for that is because we're waiting for the money to come in from a third party. That's normally the reason for the wait. But you open the account, get it funded, then find your assets. Remember, the IRA is the buyer. You are not personally the buyer of the asset, the investor here. It's the IRA. Of course, you own the IRA. That's how it works. But just know that. Similarly, when your asset sponsor is making those distributions back to you, they absolutely have to put the IRA's name on the check or the wire. Never, ever, ever, ever accept proceeds from an asset sponsor for an IRA-owned asset, because the minute you do, that bubble bursts again. You've just taken personal possession of your IRA-owned assets, and that's, you burst the bubble, right? So then you just return that money to the asset sponsor, say, no, my IRA owns it, and have them disperse it correctly. Now, the way you get the asset in the account, though, is you give us a direction letter, or we call it a DOI, a direction investment, and tell us where you want the money to go, check or wire, that kind of thing. And when it's a house you fund, you record, and then boom, now you get your keys and your tenants move in, and then all rents and in any other situation, all proceeds are payable to the IRA directly. Now, I got to add here, when it's real estate and now you're at this point, your tenants have moved in, everyone wants to know, well, what about property management? Of course, you cannot take a fee to manage your own IRA-owned property. There's actually a case about that. Because if you take money from your IRA to manage your own assets, that is a prohibited transaction. You're offering services to the plan, and if you're paid, you're personally benefiting. Complete prohibited transaction. But here's what you can do. So you may not even need a property manager. What you can do is you can collect those rent checks and made payable to the IRA and just deposit them in your IRA. You can screen the tenants to decide who you want to live in your IRA-owned property, and you can hire third-party vendors to do the work. So in that way, you can manage a property. But when it comes to swinging the hammers, you do not make what they call an over-contribution of sweat equity, right? So that's what it's called. So that's how the process works. But here's kind of an exception to the rule. I see I left the BPCon logo right there. This is a presentation I gave in October. But here's an example when a father and a son want to invest together. Now, we covered this, right? Father and son, disallowed people, but this is the exception. So in this case, they're going to buy 50-50. Dad's got cash, son has an IRA. So the title is vested as the son, traditional IRA, 50% owner, dad, or I should say dad, 50% owner, and son, the custodian for the benefit of the son's IRA, 50% owner, but they vest as tenants in common, all right? That's how that works. Yeah, they're disqualified, yes, but before the deal, as long as they had no prior ownership interest in this asset, because it's a brand new deal, that's the exception. They close concurrently, right? Their names will show up on title and record at the same time. So that's when the ownership happens. So after the deal, that's when they become disallowed to each other in this situation. They can never live in the property, have personal use of it, or sell it to each other because they're disallowed to. After that deal closes, well, they're going to split the expenses and they're going to also split the proceeds, pro rata. In this case, we've given it 50-50, but it could be anything. It could be 73-17, it could be whatever. So there we go, 27. There we are. So it's going to be like this, like a property tax bill comes due. it's going to come out of dad's checkbook. He's going to write a check, and the son's IRA is going to disperse the other part of the bill that's due. So it's nice to know. You can, mother, son, father, daughter, husband and wife, I kind of steer clear of that. You can invest concurrently. So checkbook IRA, let's talk about this. It's a lot of people think that when they open a self-directed IRA, either that it comes with a checkbook, it doesn't, or that you have to have this checkbook IRA, and you don't. So just know that you don't have to have it, and it's not a gift with purchase. I think a better name for it, it's really an IRA owned LLC. Checkbook IRA is like, like Colin's Kleenex, it's like a jargon kind of name. So IRA owned LLC. Here's the IRA over here. We'll put an IRA here. You have a third party create the LLC over here. So the IRA buys the 100% of the initial units of that LLC. So now here's the IRA, it owns the LLC like this. And the IRA is the umbrella. So now you've got the IRA purchased the LLC. It's now an asset of the plan. And you say, well, please fund the checking account of my LLC. So we do that. You give us a direction of investment request. We disperse funds from your IRA into that checking account. Now you've got checkbook authority to invest in anything, notes. I think especially when this is handy is when you're buying tax liens, because they're so transaction intensive and you really have to keep on top of the bookkeeping. Or maybe if you're buying property at auction and you need to have the money right now, the auctioneer isn't going to wait 3 days for you to bring them a check. They need it now. So those are times when it's super helpful, but it's up to you whether or not you want to use one of these. Not every self-directed IRA company will allow you to have one, and we do. So
I was just going to say that. I think it's important to note, if you're someone who's listening in and you have considered opening a self-directed IRA, that not everyone offers checkbook control, nor does everyone need checkbook control. Just like Kaaren said, I think it's important to kind of understand what you want to be investing in. And I think of checkbook control as really, I have checkbook control with my husband has it with his sole 401k. And it just allows us to essentially wire funds. Whereas without that, you're filling out that direction of investment and you're going to the custodian and they're directing the funds into the investment based on that form. So, and so if you already are pretty well established with self-directed and what it means, and you're looking for a checkbook, again, not every custodian offers that option. So it is good if that is something you're wanting to do, to know who does and who doesn't.
Yeah, that's so true. And also there's an expense setting it up. You're paying someone at least $1,000 to set up the LLC, and then you're filing with the state. There's a filing fee. And if you have the great privilege of living in California, you get to pay $800 a year to the Franchise Tax Board. Thank you, California. So it's not free. Okay, the checkbook IRA, and of course your IRA pays those expenses. But yeah, it's a tool you can use if you want, right? So we call them self-directed IRAs. It's more than that. It really is. It's the traditional, the Roth, SEP, simple, spousal, inherited, the solo 401k, and it's also, we offer the HSA, the health savings plan. If you have a high deductible health plan at work, you also can have an HSA, and you can take that money in the HSA and self-direct it. So just so you know what self-directed IRA means, it means all these things. You can people say, well, it's self-directed IRA. Well, can I self-direct a Roth? Yes, it's an IRA. You can self-direct. There you go. Now, if your money's with your current employer and you want to use that retirement money to invest, well, you might not be able to. If it's a 403B or a 457, you don't have this option. But in a 401k, you can go to your plan administrator and you can say, hey, does the plan have this in-service transfer option? I'm in service, I work here, can I move the money? And sometimes the answer is yes, so it's worth asking.
Wow, I've never heard of this. You learn something new every day. I would have always thought you had to be leaving the company. Wow, there you go. I love that. And now you know.
Yeah. And the qualification for it, sometimes it's when you hit 59 and a half that you qualify for this. It depends on what the plan says. But sometimes, like if you work for company A and they're bought by company B, then the money that you had in retirement in company A before it was purchased, that money can be eligible to be transferred as an in-service transfer. So there we go.
But for the most part, You'd say
Yeah.
that in order to open a self-directed IRA, I think for me, when I thought of this, when my mind was blown, when I learned about this probably about a decade ago, was, oh, you're leaving a job and people tell you you can leave it with your old employer, you can roll it into, you can manage it in Fidelity or Schwab, which they consider, sometimes people will say, oh, I have a self-directed account. It's with Fidelity or it's with Schwab. Yes, that is self-directed, but it doesn't allow you to invest outside of what they have on their platform. So I think when I heard of this third option of, hey, you can actually work with a custodian to invest in real estate. And for me, real estate was kind of what I honed in on because that's what I was interested in. But basically, you can invest in things outside of what Schwab or Fidelity or TD has. I guess I just thought more companies would tell their employees what their options were. So I think this is, especially now, and not that this is a great thing, but there's a lot of obvious tech layoffs happening. And I think if you're in between jobs or you were laid off and you're looking to do something rather than let your 401k sit with your old employer, this is a great option. So
yeah, it's really helped so many people to take charge of their assets. And when we see, like recently the stock market took a big dip, and we don't have control over that. And we don't have control over a lot of the markets, but things like real estate, for example, and with what you're doing, the ship is slower to turn than the stock market. And so people like having that control. It's up to you. You know, it's for sure another choice. So let's talk about losses, because wow, this happens, and we don't want losses to happen in an IRA because you cannot write them off. A lot of people learned that during the Great Recession, and you don't get to write that off. So you need to do your due diligence to try to prevent this. And you know, also when you replace assets, you can only replace them by contributions, and you're capped. So you might have $150,000 sitting in your checking account. You want to put it in an IRA. You can't do that. You can only put up to the contribution max at a time. So it really points to how precious these retirement dollars are. So do your due diligence. It's not hard. Hey, if you're investing through someone, Google them. Go to the FINRA's website. I believe it's called Broker Check. Check out somebody like who's got an SEC license. Check them out. Make sure that they haven't been incarcerated. And I'm not even kidding. Like, we had some people investing in this deal without going into a long story. And I was like, this doesn't smell right. And I went to Broker Check. Oh, guess what? This guy's actually barred from raising any capital, and he's trying to put deals through. And so, yeah, that's bad. So make sure you check out obviously that person did ultimately make that investment, but you need to definitely do your due diligence ahead. And if it's real estate, like, get a preliminary title report. You know, make sure that the person selling you the asset actually owns it. Yep. And also, if you're investing in, maybe making a note, maybe it should be secured so that if they don't pay you, it's secured and you've got a way to recuperate the loss. All right. So self-directing, it's not hard to self-direct. It really is easy. Open an account, fund it, and invest. It's just following the rules and knowing the rules there's a minor challenge there. So opening an account, it's super, super easy. And I'll throw this in here. You know, you can open an account. Hang on, I'll throw it. And it just takes about 5 minutes. And when you do, you've got an account. That's great. Funding an account is filling out a transfer request form, our form, and then we send it to your custodian. If your money is with a previous employer, though, you've got to go to them, fill out their paperwork, and they'll roll it over or contribute. So now there's money in there. Now you can invest. And so we talked about the direction letter, but we have in the past 3-4 years really, really modernized in the technology that we're using, and you can do this right online. Of course, we're here to help you and walk you through it, but you just type into a computer what you want to do, and we can disperse those funds for you. So the investing is a lot easier. And so once you've invested, of course, we're going to review that asset, right, to make sure that the IRA is actually the name of the investor, and that IRA is going to get an asset in exchange for the deal. Typically, we're looking for that. Notes has certain criteria that it has to have like a maturity date. Believe it or not, we see napkin notes, people, like the old school. Yeah. And napkin notes just don't cut it. I mean, it's a good faith estimate. I mean, a good faith, not good faith estimate. It's a good faith transaction. Like, hey, you know, I'm as good as my word. Well, that's fine, but a napkin note doesn't belong in with your retirement. So, but you tell us what you want to invest in, and then all the proceeds are going to go back into your IRA, tax-free or tax deferred, not diminished by tax, right? So that means you've got more money to go out and do your next deal. So you compound that. I'm offered to offer up this free report here to you, so that if you like, you can go there and learn all about the different kinds of asset classes and learn about self-directed IRA investing. And by the way, that's what I look like after 2 hours of parenting, for the record.
Love it.
So with that, do you want to get to the questions? Is that what you like to do now?
Definitely. And I just think it's important, again, you know, there's a lot of different custodians out there, but I think working and with someone who does provide that, hey, we'll get on the phone and do a consult with you. Everyone's situation is unique. And I'm sure if this is your first time kind of really listening in about what a self-directed IRA is, you might have more questions than someone who's been evaluating for a while. And you're, for example, someone asked a business or a question about owning a business, and he was told that he couldn't have his own plan. So we'll get to these questions now, but I just think it's important that if you are evaluating, make sure that you get on the phone with someone. I know that, and look at what their customer service is like. I think that's important. And having that streamlined onboarding process, again, just the things, how you interact with someone before you become their client is really important. So being able to have that free consult, I feel, is super helpful. And I know uDirect.
Yeah. It steers you clear of running into all kinds of problems. I mean, we definitely want to prevent any issues. So we're gonna do everything we can about that. So do you want to touch on these or what?
Yeah. So questions. I'll start with what in order which they came in. So what's the difference in precious metal coinage versus where did it go?
Is it there? What's the difference?
Between precious metal coinage versus numismatics on the limits of self-directed IRA investment. How is that determined? Okay,
I'm going to throw this in here so you can see it. This is on our website. It has to, the short answer is it has to do with the fineness of the metal. So it has to be like 9.99999% pure. It's the purity of the metal. It changes it from a collectible numismatic to actually an IRA worthy investment. So you'll see that in the chat.
Okay. Are there any potential negative tax laws for IRAs that Congress is considering? Are they thinking of going after unrealized gains?
Not now. We had the Build Back Better Act, and that was a scary thing. And that was, but we haven't seen. So again, I mentioned I'm on the board of directors for RETA. So we have lobbyists, and they're telling us what's happening on Capitol Hill. So I'm really up to speed on this. And we haven't seen any of the Build Back Better language from 2022 coming back into the legislation that's appearing now. So no, we don't see that right now. Unrealized gains, no. I'll tell you this, a lot of congressional representatives have self-directed IRAs, and they invest in private equity using it. So yeah, Mitt Romney famously has the multi-million-dollar IRA, the Roth IRA, where he invested in a startup company and it just went crazy. I think it was PayPal, and it went nuts, and he made millions and millions of dollars in his mega IRA. So just to say.
Disallowed investments. Does it apply if the IRA invests in a hotel syndication investment and you want to stay at the hotel?
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. But let's also have a reasonable look at this. So if your IRA invests in hotel syndication, what percentage of ownership do you have of the whole? We call it de minimis. It's little, like a tiny little percentage. And how many rooms does that hotel have? Say 500. I don't know how many rooms a hotel. But then also your benefit is de minimis. So it could pass the radar where you could do it. If you don't have to stay there, don't. So there's no question at all. But if you're going to pay to stay at a hotel that your IRA owns and you actually receive benefit, that would be a prohibited transaction. It's up to the IRS, but it just depends on how, again, de minimis that benefit is.
If you are retired and your self-directed IRA runs out of funds, can you add money as a retired person?
I love this question. The answer used to be kind of maybe. So it used to be that you could only, if you had, first off, always have to have active income. income from a job in order to contribute. That's one qualification always. But it used to be that after you reach the age of RMD, required minimum distribution, it used to be 70 and a half, now it's 73. But once you reach that age, you could only contribute to a Roth IRA. But that changed with Secure Act 2.0, and now you can contribute even to a traditional IRA, regardless of your age, so long as you have active income from a job.
Okay, so the kind of qualification is you have to have active income from a job.
Correct.
Oh,
Jeff. Okay. Oh, wonderful. Fantastic. Then you know these rules. Okay. Internal Revenue Code 4975. You know all about it. That's fabulous. You probably have a really good experience with the self-directed IRA.
Someone asked, I have a business with employees here in California. It is now mandatory to have a retirement program for my employees. I have wanted to do something like this, but I was told I could not have my own plan.
That's wrong. You can. Absolutely. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
No, I was going to say, and I am not the expert here, but could that be would that be like a solo 401k? Like like you mentioned, there's all these terms, a SEP.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. Well, it could be a solo pay, but this person, Ron, has employees. So solo pay is for just one person, no full-time employees. But if you've got employees, the SEP, the Simplified Employee Pension, wow, that's pretty great. The simple IRA, the Savings Incentive Match Plan for employers, if the government calls it simple, it's not. And that's the case with the simple IRA. But these are two employer plans with employees. I'll tell you that the SEP has a much higher contribution limit. For 2024, the contribution limit for a SEP is the lesser of 25% of your income up to a cap of $69,000. So it's pretty sweet. You know, I would seriously consider that, but I would talk to your tax advisor. The tax advisor is going to do the calculation for that contribution, and talk to them and say, hey, I've got this business. It's a small business. I need a plan. What's best for me? The SEP, the simple, because I have a small business, which is not so small now, uDirect IRA Services, and we have a full-blown 401k for our employees. It's not inexpensive for that. You got to pay a couple of dollars to have this, a couple $1,000s to have a full-blown 401k. But a SEP IRA, it's $50 setup fee, $275 a year, and a couple of account fees. It's just super not expensive to have a SEP IRA for your. It doesn't take out of your ROI down on your company, the bottom line.
Awesome. And then what are the monthly annual fees to establish and maintain a self-directed IRA with uDirect?
Right. It's like I was kind of mentioning right there. It's so many. It's pretty great. Okay, we have probably the lowest fees in the industry, so I'm just going to share them with you in the chat. It's first off, it's a $50 setup fee. That's paid, outside the account. The second thing is an annual fee. Every self-directed IRA company has an annual fee. It's $275, and that's regardless of the number of assets and regardless of their value. Okay, and we don't have a tack on. It's not like it's a flat fee. Plus, if you have real estate, it's more. Or plus, if you have a note, it's more. No, it's just a flat fee. We ask that you leave a minimum deposit, minimum balance of $325 in the account. Not very much, so it's pretty inexpensive, and you can click on that link and see the fees.
Awesome, and I love that the transparency is there. Like I mentioned, there are a lot of custodians out there, fees, customer service, like their process. If you decide not to have checkbook control, what does that look like? All great questions to ask and know going into kind of evaluate who you want to work with and partner with. Doesn't look like we have any more questions, but we will be sending out this recording. I know there were some people that registered that couldn't attend, so we'll be sending that out. If you have any questions about or want to hop on a call with uDirect, you can see here, Kaaren has her info at udirect.com, and we'll send her info as well in that email. You'll have it if you want to contact them and reach out. But we hope this was super educational. There's also, she just dropped a link in the chat, udirect.com/contact. But I hope this was super helpful, educational. We really, again, wanted to kind of live by what we talk about when it comes to educating, not just kind of that same pitch every month. Keep an eye out, like always, if you have, and this was something that came from investors, asking us, hey, I've heard about self-directed IRAs. Can I invest with you guys in using my self-directed IRA? Or, us sending lists out to people of, here are some custodians to evaluate because they do have a self-directed with Schwab or Fidelity. So again, if there's any other kind of content or ideas that you're looking to hear about, please email us. These webinars are for you, and we want to make sure that they are worth your time, that they are educational. So yes. Oh, and then someone just dropped, and we will send out the replay of the OCREIA presentation I did last Thursday as well. So
yeah, if you want to just, fill a couple of seconds here, I'll grab that link and throw it in the chat. It'll just take a second. So yeah, that we had a really great presentation that was last Thursday, and we've had a lot of requests for this. We had so many people sign up too. So this is the link and the password. And what you want to do is fast forward about 10-15 minutes into it. I start recording early so people can jump in the room. So you might think there's nothing on this recording, but so just fast forward and you'll find it.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Kaaren, for joining us, talking a little bit about self-directed IRAs. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to her. As always, happy Wednesday, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye.